So with this overview, as well as a few tactical things for you to contemplate, I now turn it over to our panel to provide you differing views on the same perspective that you shouldn't fear technology, but you should embrace it in an intelligent way. So our first presenter is Jim Longo from Highwire.
I grabbed that quote from Dan Ariely, 2012. Big data is like, or it's actually AI is like teenage sex. Everyone's talking about it. Nobody really knows how to do it. Everyone thinks everyone else is doing it, so everyone claims they are doing it. When he wrote that in 2012, he was talking about big data. Big data at the time was at the peak of its hype cycle, to use the Gartner framework for analysis of technologies as they're going through that process. There's the Gartner hype cycle for 2017. They've been doing the hype cycle since 1995, talking about as different technologies come on, the different waves they go through in terms of expectations, the disappointments we get after the technology doesn't meet the expectations. I like that one in the middle. It's called the Trough of Disillusionment. It's basically when things don't work out as the way people expected and hoped. Right now, machine learning is up in the yellow circle. It is circled on my slides anyway, at the very peak of that cycle. And we shall see, and probably will see over the course of time, it wandering through a different part of that cycle where it won't meet our expectations because there's a lot of hype around it, but there is a lot of good things coming about it. By the way, in 2012, in the Trough of Disillusionment, virtual worlds were just spinning out of control. You might remember Second Life. That was down at the bottom. I don't see too many Second Lifers in the audience, or at least anyone who's going to attest to that. I wanted to bring an example outside of publishing to the conversation. That's a company that's built upon data science. The company is called Stitch Fix. They're out of San Francisco. They're just IPO'd in 2017. They're about a $2 billion valuation. They have $1.2 billion in sales. They started in 2011. They have over 100 data scientists and platform engineers on staff. And their job or mission is to make shopping fun. I see some heads waving who actually know what Stitch Fix is all about. How it works is you tell the system what you like in terms of clothing. They select 5 pieces of clothing for you based upon your parameters or your preferences. They ship them to you. You keep what you like and send back the rest. Rinse and repeat. Fantastic business model. They're highly successful. And they are all about data science being applied to the particular domain of shopping and selection of fashion. Fashion is a really difficult thing to talk about in terms of algorithms. But one of the things that really excites me about Stitch Fix is they're very open about their data science and how they apply data science to their business problems. And so what you're looking at right now is an illustration from tours.stitchfix.com. It's available publicly. And it explains in visualization what's happening in the algorithms in their business models. So the business problem is presented on the right, demand modeling and inventory management. The algorithm, the math if you'd like, statistical analysis is in the middle. And the illustrations is data flowing through the models and demonstrating the outcomes of the models on the right-hand side. Excuse me, on the left-hand side, your left, my right. And the reason, besides it's great eye candy for presentation, the reason I like it is because it is probably the best explanation I can share with you that says what is data science and what does it mean when they talk about machine learning? Can machine learning be applied to my business and what would that look like? Because they're typically things we don't see visually happening. At the end of this tour, there's actually a link to visualization of machine learning, another visualization put together by Tony Chu and his team. Phenomenal stuff if you're interested in exploring the topics even further. But the data science at Stitch Fix is trying to predict a very human emotion, preference. Something that style and fashion is ephemeral, and it is much to the individual. And what they found, and what Stitch Fix has found, is that that really the problem is very hard. It's really hard to get it right. And so they actually have 2,000 stylists on staff, 2,000 people, human beings, that are employees, and their job is to be stylists. Their job is to take the outputs of the algorithms and curate that for the individual. So the machines, the algorithms, select a batch of fashion that this person might be interested in, and then the stylist basically curates that or selects 5 pieces, drops a little note in the Stitch Fix box to the individual, and gives them some instructions about what to wear with what. And that's a marrying, if you like, of human power and intuition and insight matched with the algorithms in a very creative fashion, a creative way, excuse me, not to use a pun on the word fashion. What Stitch Fix talks about, and they're very public in their presentations, and they have a very active blog about data science, is talking about leveraging the power of machines, doing what machines, using the machines to do the things they do best. Large-scale computations, heavy and repetitive computations, selecting and ranking huge volumes of inventory, finding patterns and massive amounts of data. And humans on the right, you're right, yep, provide context and sensitivity. They provide nuance, a word we heard last night in the keynote session a lot. They provide aesthetic judgment. They provide relationship building. They provide novel inferences that machines can't necessarily connect the dots in yet. And they have an uncanny ability to look at large amounts of unstructured data and provide meaning. And that meaning making is what makes us humans. What is also interesting about Stitch Fix, and I'll end it here with them, about them in particular, is they've used data science as part of the way they run the business. And so they're always looking at what are they optimizing, what processes are they running, and what are the outcomes they're expecting. How do they make decisions with unclear or uncertainty? And how do they tell if something's working? And if you've been listening to us over the years, or I should say John Sack over the years from Highwire Press, we've been talking about data-driven publishing for quite a while and using data to make decisions. And you would think after 23 years of being at this, we would have the answers of what our publishers and editors wanted from machine learning and data science. And rather than do that, just assume, we got together back in January with a bunch of our editors and publishers at Stanford and had a 2-day offsite with 2 of our partners, Google and Meta. Meta being part of the Chan Zuckerberg initiative now, 2 companies that are heavily invested in AI and the application of AI to the STM space. And we'd asked our publishers, what do they want and what do they expect out of data science or analytics or these ephemeral tools called machine learning? And the answer we got was pretty resoundingly, make long meetings shorter. Now, that was not a slam about the length of the meeting or the content we presented, because everyone was pretty engaged in the conversations. It's more about give us the data we need to make decisions in a digestible format, so then we walk into a meeting, we can leave the religious debate behind, and rather having data-deficient arguments, we can make decisions based upon sound logic and rationale. That's something that hasn't existed in publishing or has been very difficult to gather in publishing over time. They also asked us for better insights into journal performance. They asked us how to better engage with communities. They wanted to know what are the new fields, topics, authors, and labs in the marketplace, where are the emergence of these topics, and how can they use technology to get that ever-promised increase in workflow productivity and efficiency. We actually have products in the marketplace right now that can help a lot with the visualization of data in order to better evaluate how a journal is performing. We have the Visor products, Impact Visor and Usage Visor, that do data modeling and data analysis and data analytics and use visualizations to take large amounts of data and make them digestible, comprehensible, and tee them up for decision making in terms of how a publishing program is performing. We partnered with Meta. Meta is working on the knowledge graph for STM. They're putting a large amount of resources against the problem. We're working with our publishers in a beta of their publisher's dashboard that is looking at how a rolling snapshot of how articles are performing over the next 3 months. And rather than waiting for impact factors to be generated on an annual basis, we're actually using tools right now to give near real-time visibility into how articles and topics are performing over time. Dan Ariely, the the behavioral economist I quoted at the front of this talks about testing everything. And I think that's one of the critical things about data science and all technologies that come with a promise. Validate the promises validate the promises, make sure that they are delivering on what they say they can deliver on. And so we're working with our partners at Meta to validate their algorithms, to make sure that their predictive models are accurately reflected by looking at historical data and how the models would have performed against historical data. And so we're actually engaged in a partnership with them to look at the statistical analysis of their outputs. Thank you. 13 seconds, I can finish. The other thing we're looking at Meta is horizon scanning. Horizon scanning is the ability to identify new topics, trends, and labs that are in the future, that will be popular in the future based upon the frequency of referencing in papers in production. We're also working on new ways of visualizing topical analysis. This is in our lab, not in development, not in production. But this is a topic map, a stream graph, if you like, that looks about how topics are performing over time based upon the number of articles and the validity or the popularity of the citations. And lastly, our newest partner, PubGrade, is applying data science to advertising. And the red line in there is how advertisements that are placed using the analytics perform compared to historical trends of placing ads over time. And you can see, I'm done, and you can see that data science applied to a number of different sets is very compelling and happening in our space. And I'll end with this. The examples we brought forward really bring forward the idea that humans and data science can coexist together, and that we both bring, humans and computers bring power to the problem sets we face. We don't need to rage against the machine. Co-working together is where we're at. Thank you.
Thank you.